Good evening and welcome to the Weekly Voice, presented by VNN, bringing you this week's top 10 Canadian news stories on March 14, 2025. Let's get started. Mark Carney has officially taken office as Canada's 24th Prime Minister, replacing Justin Trudeau after 9 years. In a bold move, Carney has removed 18 former ministers from his cabinet, signaling a major shift in the Liberal government. Notably, Chrystia Freeland has been reassigned as Transport Minister, and the role of Deputy Prime Minister has been eliminated. As Carney attempts to distance himself from his predecessor and redefine Liberal leadership, the opposition is already framing his government as a continuation of the Trudeau-Carney Liberals. With a potential election on the horizon, the new Prime Minister has little time to prove himself to Canadians. Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has officially sworn in his cabinet, bringing new leadership to key government positions. The new cabinet features several returning ministers and fresh faces, including Indo-Canadian leaders Kamal Khera as Minister of Health and Anita Anand as Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. Carney has promised a leaner, more focused team to tackle Canada's pressing challenges, including economic recovery, trade disputes, and national security. Will this new cabinet bring the change Canadians are looking for? We'll discuss what these appointments mean in the coming days. US President Donald Trump is once again stirring controversy by suggesting Canada should become America's 51st state. In a recent press conference, Trump downplayed Canada's national borders and claimed that economic integration would benefit both nations. While most dismiss his remarks as political posturing, Canadian leaders are taking a firm stance against them. Prime Minister Carney responded by stating, "Canada is not and will never be part of America." Meanwhile, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has also pushed back, calling Trump's remarks ridiculous and warning against further economic interference. Is this just another round of Trump's political theater, or is there a deeper strategy behind these statements? If you bought packaged bread in Canada between 2001 and 2021, you might be entitled to compensation as part of a $500 million class action settlement against Loblaw. The lawsuit stems from a long-running price-fixing scheme that artificially inflated bread prices for decades. While Loblaw previously offered $25 gift cards in response to the scandal, this latest settlement could result in direct payments to affected consumers. Stay tuned for more details on how you can claim your share once the settlement process is finalized. The ongoing trade war between Canada and the US is now costing Canadian jobs. Major companies across steel, manufacturing, and retail industries are laying off workers due to uncertainty caused by Trump's aggressive tariff policies. Algoma Steel, Canada Metal Processing Group, and Sheartex have all announced job cuts in response to economic instability. With more tariffs set to take effect in the coming weeks, businesses are calling for urgent government intervention to protect Canadian industries. Will Ottawa step in before the damage worsens? The United States is pressing for a major shift in its trade relationship with Canada. Following high-level discussions in Washington, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick emphasized the need to move away from what he called the status quo in favor of fair trade. The talks, which included Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Ontario Premier Doug Ford, focused on U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, as well as broader economic concerns. Canada has pushed back, arguing that the U.S. already benefits from a trade surplus when energy exports are excluded. With tensions rising, these discussions could determine the future of trade relations between the two nations. In a major cabinet reshuffle, Prime Minister Mark Carney has appointed Rachel Bendayan as Canada's new Immigration Minister, replacing Mark Miller. Bendayan, a Montreal MP with a background in law and international trade, will oversee Canada's evolving immigration policies as the country prepares for the 2025 federal election. Her appointment comes amid ongoing debates over immigration caps, labor shortages, and housing affordability. The big question now, will she continue Miller's restrictive approach or take a different path? As the war in Ukraine enters its fourth year, Russian President Vladimir Putin has laid out demands that Ukraine and its Western allies are unlikely to accept. Among them, keeping all occupied Ukrainian territories, banning Ukraine from NATO, and demanding the return of Russian diplomatic property seized by the US. While the US is pushing for a ceasefire, Russia's terms suggest that peace talks will be anything but simple. With economic sanctions and military support for Ukraine still on the table, the geopolitical tension continues to rise. US President Donald Trump has publicly revealed that he personally appealed to Russian President Vladimir Putin to spare the lives of thousands of Ukrainian troops reportedly surrounded by Russian forces. In a social media post, Trump described his conversation with Putin as productive and claimed that a peace deal could be in sight. However, Ukrainian officials have denied reports of encirclement, and critics argue that Trump's engagement with Putin raises serious diplomatic concerns. With a proposed 30-day ceasefire on the table, the world watches to see if negotiations will lead to real de-escalation or further strategic maneuvering. Apple CEO Tim Cook has joined in celebrating Holi, the festival of colors, by sharing a stunning photo shot on an iPhone. The image, captured by photographer Kushagra Tiwari, showcases the vibrancy and joy of the festival, highlighting Apple's latest camera advancements. This marks another year of Apple leveraging cultural celebrations to showcase its technology. That's all for today's top stories. Thank you for joining us on the Weekly Voice presented by VNN. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.